Hi.
Hi. Oh my goodness. Hello, hello, hello. Today's gonna be a good one, folks. I hope you are buckled up because I'm on fire yet again. Um, Before we get into publishing and all the goodies about getting your work in the top publications in the world, the household names that everybody knows, if you want to see your work featured there, that's what we're digging into today. But before we do that, I was on a walk yesterday and I just had all of this flow come to me. I think about you guys constantly. And so I was thinking about you and just like, what do we need? What is missing here? And I really feel that it is the transition that most of us need to make from looking to outside sources to actually becoming the CEO and the creative executive officer of your business and of your life by extension. Because what a lot of us do is we like set a goal or we have an idea in our mind about something that we want to accomplish, and we're like, okay, great. That sounds super impossible. I have no idea how to do it. I need somebody to tell me and show me how to do it. So we ask people how to do it, and they tell us how, right? That's kind of what this whole retreat mastermind thing is me telling you how to do it. And then you try it and it doesn't work right away. And so you're like, okay, guess that doesn't work. Either I got to find a new how, or I'm not cut out for this, or I'm never going to achieve this goal or have this thing or become this person that I want to become. And the reality is that the how is only like 2% of the puzzle. The other 98% is you, your energy, your execution, your unique flavor that you don't even know is like all that you have to offer. All of that is the other 98%. So I can tell you all day long, send weekly emails, build your email list, focus on that. Don't focus on social media. Do sales calls, sell ideas, not photos. Follow a launch formula rather than just like throwing things at people, offers without warning. Really listen to what people want with radical empathy and create offers around that. Be aware of the stories that you're telling. You're not selling photos, you're selling the feeling that people get when they buy the photos. All of that. I can tell you all of that over and over. And it's really only a small piece of the puzzle, because the rest of the puzzle is your own radical courage to be the driving force behind what you create, to take 100% responsibility for your own success, and to not do that in a place where you hold that against yourself and where you say like, oh, I'm responsible for my success and so I'm the reason that it's not working, blah blah blah. But that you take full responsibility for it, in that you simply commit to keep going and to not stop. That you commit to failing more. So many of us just want to have success after success after success. And if you're having a lot of success, it just means you're not playing big enough. That's why I celebrate our failures so much here, because you can think it's cheesy, but it is no less true that failure is learning. And when you just do things that you succeed at, your life is just super small. And your business, your impact, your art is all super small. I want us to get rid of this lie. Just banish this lie from your mind and your life forevermore, that if you somehow had the best work ever, the best images ever, all of this would automatically come. That you would be drowning in clients and money and blah, blah, blah. That's a lie. It's not true. So quit thinking that it's just about the photos, or that it's just about business, or that it's just about you. It's a blend of all of these, right? And so when you have the courage to dip below your current quote unquote level, to risk failure, to risk looking stupid, to encourage and embrace all the rejection and the no, that's when you become the most free. And that's when your life just starts to explode. So some of you are, I mean, we're all in various stages. Some of you have already started and experienced the wins, and that could be really addictive, honestly. And you can feel like, okay, I've got some wins under my belt. I don't want to do this failure thing anymore. I don't want to do this risking rejection thing anymore. I don't want to do sales calls anymore, blah, blah, blah. But when you start to have success and start to win is when you need to double down on the failure. That's what's going to give you the most momentum. So as we talk about getting published today, let me promise you that all of your work is 100% good enough and more to be featured in the top publications in the world. Whatever your heart can dream of or desire in that category is yours for the taking if you can handle enough no's. It's just a numbers game. It's as simple as that. Okay. I'm sure I will get into many more soapboxes on that later, but I had to begin with that idea in mind because to be totally honest, I'm a little afraid that all of us are veering too much into the territory of saying, I'm trying it and it's not working, instead of accessing your own wisdom and taking everything that I'm teaching you, that you've learned from all of your experience up to this point, everything that you have, and filtering that through your own wisdom, asking yourself, what should I try next? And being honest with yourself about how much you're really pouring into this. And I don't mean time, and I don't mean effort. I mean intention. All right, let's talk about getting published. Boom, baby. I gotta get my presentation up again after getting on the Zoomness. So today, okay, let's talk about using the media to get credibility, grow your audience, create super fans, and this is all for free. You don't have to pay for no ads. You don't have to pay for anything. The media is hungry for you to contribute for free, and they might even pay you. So we're going to talk about how to get your work in the top publications and outlets. Anybody interested in Oprah, Martha Stewart, Parents, Good Morning America, Kodak? Type what in the chat you want to, where do you want to see your work? Tell me in the chat. I love this so much. We're going to talk about why this is way easier than you think it is. People think this is so hard and impossible, and it could not be easier. And I'm going to give you everything that you need to get started, and most importantly, tell you what not to waste your time on, because you can waste so much time in this world. But let's first talk about why bother. If you're like, I'm just a photographer, I just want to fill my schedule with clients, why should I bother with publication and magazines and TV and blah, blah, blah? I don't care. I'll tell you why you should care. It's going to give you instant credibility, number one. Number two, everyone and their dog understands the media, even your mom. So if you are a multi-passionate creative person who thinks like, well, maybe I want to be a photographer for the foreseeable future, or maybe I want to add other projects in at some point. Maybe I want to dip my toe into video or commercial photography or some other branch, or I want to write a book, or you have any other creative inklings in your brain. Everyone understands the media, and you get to keep those logos with you in perpetuity. Your work was featured on Huffington Post 20 years ago. You get to keep that logo on your website. It does not expire, and that credibility extends across projects, extends across whatever you do. You have the opportunity to grow your audience worldwide. Those of you who want to or have added a passive income stream to your business, or a course or a preset or anything else like that, something that appeals worldwide and can be sold worldwide, let's line your pockets with all the money, and that's going to be much easier if your audience is bigger. It's going to give you more traction on any project that you have in the future. And this can also be a super quick shortcut to attracting ideal clients and cool collaborations. you'll be shocked because people will start to come to you as an expert, and the opportunities here are truly endless. And also, this is just going to generally grow your brand and your brand awareness really fast. There was a florist a couple years back, and she seemingly came out of nowhere. And there was another florist that I was friends with. I was a wedding photographer at the time, and this florist that I was really good friends with was so jealous of this other florist. She was like, she's good, but she's not like the best of the best of the best. And like, I feel like my work is so good and nobody's really hiring me. And she was just really stuck. And so I was like, I'm going to dissect what happened to this other florist. Like, how did she come out of nowhere? She really did seem to just like explode with success. And then she was suddenly everywhere. You know, these people, it was media. One of her first collaborations that she did with another florist, wasn't even only her, got featured in Martha Stewart. And then she got jobs from that. And then that quickly exploded into her seemingly coming out of nowhere. So let's talk about what the media wants and what the media is looking for. Spoiler, it's you, because they need content from experts. Think about a media outlet and how much content they are tasked with putting out every single day, especially digital content. They have to put out digital content. The scale and pace at which they have to do this is massive. So what they are looking for is not necessarily to profile you as a photographer, as an artist, although that might come later. They are looking for service-based articles and features. So this is tips for their audience, something that their audience is going to be able to benefit from. Now, of course, all publications are different, and some publications do run actual artist features, and that's great, go after that. But for a general publication that you want to see your work in, the way to go is service-based articles and features. And we're going to get into all the how-tos about creating headlines and generating ideas for these articles. But I want to illustrate this with Kodak. So I reached out to Kodak. I mean, it's been a little while ago now, and we still have yet to actually bring this to fruition, which that's a whole other topic that we can discuss. But I reached out to them with like a pitch that was I believe it was like 14 tips on how to get the best summer family photos. And I was like, how, you know, I looked at Kodak and I saw that they don't have a blog, they don't really have like a venue for articles. So I just reached out to somebody that I knew at Kodak, who he has been to every photography conference. And I just talked to him and made friends with him, which is another really great tip. Like when you're hanging out at photo conferences and these kinds of things, don't hang out with other photographers. Hang out with the representatives from Kodak, the representatives from PicTime, the representatives from all the places that are really going to move you forward in your career. That's like the true meaning of networking. And of course, you do it genuinely. So I reached out to them with this article idea. He connects me with the proper person who's in charge of Kodak's Instagram. And she's like, yeah, we don't really have an outlet to feature articles right now, but I'm really impressed that you reached out with this helpful idea, because we get hundreds of emails a day from photographers saying, feature me on your Instagram, here's my work, like submitting to be featured on their Instagram. And she was interested in me because I gave them something that would be helpful for their audience. Now, I was able to get a meeting with her, and after we chatted and everything that unfolded, we're not going to do anything even close to that original idea that I submitted. We're going to do something that's totally different, and it might be hashtag based, it might be an Instagram takeover, we're not even sure. But because I was offering value, offering something that was helpful, then I have that relationship with her. So always have that publication or that outlet, their audience is the king. It cannot be about you. So lots of people wonder, like, don't I have to have a big social following of my own? Don't I have to have credentials? Do they want somebody who went to photography school, etc.? Publications do not care about this by and large. There are some publications that want, specific things depending on what you're writing about. You need to have certain credentials, but overall, they care about the quality of the idea. The quality of the story is everything. It really helps to have a contact and to be able to say, a referral. But other than that, cold pitches get accepted all the time. So when you're thinking about generating publications to consider or ideas to pitch, etc., let's go back to our magical, very complex Venn diagram that's about your photography and your other interests, and that crossover section that's your magic sauce. If you want to keep it to just photography, that's totally fine, and there's a huge market for that, and you can keep it that way. And we're gonna virtually all the sort of base ideas that I'm going to give you are related to photography. But if you can find these crossover points, that's going to make you stand out even more when you're pitching to big media. Whatever your interests are, there's a media outlet for that, right? So where would you love to see your name and your work? Did some of you put it in the chat? I'm gonna see. Fine Art, Motherhood Journals, Mother Mag, Sunset Magazine, Adobe. Love it. Yes, all of those are an email away. I promise you that. There's a way to package your work for that outlet, and desire is really the only requirement. So we're going to talk about how to approach any specific outlets that you're interested in a little further down the road here today. But once you have it in your mind somewhere solidified where you want to see your work, then you start to think about your work differently. You start to think about the way you package your work, the images that you pulled together, the images that you're shooting for portfolio building, just your general ideation is going to be different. Oh, hang on. We're back. So let's start. Here's what you need to get started. Just create a sample portfolio in Dropbox to share. When I was first getting started, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to take me so long, because I was learning about pitching and publication and getting in the media from somebody who was not a photographer. And so I was like, oh my gosh, to share images with just general outlets that aren't photography based, I'm going to have to create an entire new portfolio for every single pitch. If it's going to be like, these 14 photos show the magic of birth or whatever, I'm going to have to create like new portfolios every single time. Nope. Just create a sample portfolio in Dropbox, and then you share that with every pitch. And once you get further down the road with that publication, then you finesse exactly which images you're going to include or not include. So yes, you're going to research the media outlet, but please don't waste time on this. This should take you less than 10 minutes to poke around just their website, find anything that they've covered that's similar to your niche, or any holes in the site and the content that you would be perfect to fill. Look at their media kit and advertising section to figure out get a feel for who their reader is. So if you're looking at bigger publications, say like women's magazines, for example, and you're like, would it actually be helpful for me to be featured in Marie Claire or not? Should I spend my time on this? You can go to Marie Claire's website, and they will have a press or advertising section that breaks down their entire reader demographic. So we'll say our average reader makes X amount of money. Our average reader is X age old. Our average readers are in this specific location if they have location-specific readers. Those big women's magazines are obviously going to be more nationwide and sometimes worldwide, depending. But look at those media kit sections. Even though they're for advertisers, it's going to be super helpful for you to figure out if you want to actually write for this publication. Then you're going to create your pitch and send it. Let's talk about that. So I'm not going to go through these pitches in their entirety, but these are actual pitches that I have sent that were accepted. So this was for Click Magazine, just quick intro. And then if you have any relevant features, even if they're really old, you can still list them here in the first line so that you get credibility. If you know anybody at the magazine, or you know anybody who has been featured in that outlet, in the title, just put ref, R-E-F, colon, that person's name. So for me, for you guys with Click, Rangefinder, Adorama, you can all in your pitch lines put ref Brooke Schultz, because I've written for those publications before, and that can help you get your foot in the door. Then you're going to put your short pitch, and you're going to bold your actual, bold your title. So TK tips for shooting families on film was my pitch to Click. TK just means any number of tips, however many tips you end up with. You don't have to put a specific number, 6 tips or 10 tips or whatever. You can just put TK tips in media speak. They know that just means however many. And then also include your most surprising or unique angle or piece of your pitching puzzle in this short pitch. So notice that in this pitch, I'm not attaching a full article that I've already written. I'm not even saying, here's all the tips I would share. I'm saying the one most surprising tip is this. Photographers feel like they need to move people around. I can show how to get a variety of set without dragging them all around. If there's any piece that you've seen recently in the magazine that's like sort of similar, but different enough that yours fills a hole in their content, then you can say this could complement a piece I saw recently. Now, if you go to their site and you see nothing about family photography covered anywhere, that can mean one of two things. It can mean either one, they're not interested in that content and that's not going to resonate with their audience, or two, they haven't covered it yet and that it would be a good hole. So look again back to those media kit pages and the demographics and other articles to see, do they cover family and parenthood articles? Do they write motherhood articles? Do they have adjacent topics covered to where family photography and like getting your family ready for a family photo session could be a hole in their content that would be filled, that would be interesting to their audience. And then you attach your sample portfolio, website, and Instagram. That's it. Really not long at all. Here's some pitch tips. Keep it short. You saw that was like intro, a very brief summary of the pitch, any other relevant info that you're adding, your portfolio, your links, that's it. Subject lines are a big deal because editors are notoriously like crazy busy and they have the most overflowing inboxes ever. So this is the one that is my go-to. Just hi editor's name, the title of your pitch for whatever publication or section. Editors will also, if you put the title and the section in your subject line and it happens to land in the wrong editor's inbox, they will redirect you. That is, sometimes they will, sometimes they won't, but a lot of times they will. Just show that you've done your homework. Again, less than 10 minutes, but just that you know their audience and you've actually read their publication, even if it's just one article, that you have the tone of their publication down. And again, reference any connections you have, and utilize your first features to land new ones. As soon as you get a piece published, ideally, you would be sending out 5 more pitches referencing this very fresh new piece that you just got published. Okay, so let's talk about pitch ideas. Keep a running list. You can be inspired by anything. Articles you see, news, trends, anything. Especially if you keep tabs on like pop culture or even sort of indie pop culture, not necessarily like A-list celebrities, but you have like your own niches that you pay attention to news-wise. This is a gold mine for ideas, because timely articles that are responding to something in the news are really likely to get picked up rather than just like say an evergreen piece. But you don't have to, that's just one aspect of it. It can also be seasonal seasonal ideas. So I mentioned that like summer vacation family photos idea, or the ever present what to wear for your fall family photos idea, or should you do a photo session in the spring, or how to make your Christmas cards not suck, those types of more seasonal ideas. So here's just a few, and these are in all of this, including these slides, are in your Thinkific Mastermind course. So you can come back to this and reference this anytime. You can just copy and paste these ideas as jumping off point. So TK tips for what to wear: take your what to wear guide that you've already done and pitch that to an outlet, and like easiest article to write ever because you've already written it for a freebie. It's great. What your photographer really wants you to know: how to get the best family photos with your photographer. I'm a family photographer. Here's what I'm really thinking when your kids go crazy during a session. I pitched this to Parents Magazine and got it published last year. And they changed the title. So that's the other thing. Was that all that was on that slide? Sorry. Yeah. Okay, there's a bigger list, an even bigger list in the Thinkific course. They're always going to change your title and your tips and your copy. They're always going to change it. So here's my pitch for Adorama. My focus in a family session isn't on the kids. Here's why. See, it's the same formula, same format. Just copy paste, just change the pitch. You can knock 5 of these out in 30 minutes. Okay, so after you sent your pitch, the golden thing that's going to save you is following up. Give them a week after you send your pitch for the first follow-up. If you have anything timely that's based on a news story, or that is seasonal, like you're writing something for Mother's Day or things like that, then you can always include, if I don't hear from you by X date, I will assume it's a pass and be in touch with future ideas. Take none of this personally, please. After I got published with Parents Magazine, I sent them actually 3 more ideas as soon as the piece went live, because I was like, I want to get published with them again. And she said no to all 3 of my ideas. Don't take it personally. Do avoid Fridays for actually sending pitches or following up with pitches. It's just notoriously not good for editors. And then you can follow up a second time a week after your first follow-up, if you have that much time. If it's a more timely article, you can feel free to follow up again. Do the first follow-up a week after, then maybe 3 to 5 days after that. Say, just wanted to float this to the top of your inbox. Is this something you'd be interested in for X publication? If I don't hear from you by X date, I'll assume it's a pass this time and be in touch with future ideas. So here's just some pitching etiquette. If you haven't heard back from an outlet and you want to pitch your idea to another outlet, just the follow-up with a deadline really works wonders for getting a yes or a no. So this is the same, everything that I just said, but just written out. Just wanted to float this to the top of your inbox. Is this headline something you'd be interested in for this publication? If I don't hear from you, I'll just be in touch with future ideas. So feel free to copy and paste this and use it. So you do want to avoid pitching the same idea multiple places at once, because you don't want to have to come back to an editor with a no if they have both given you a yes. Publications generally want exclusivity. So instead, use variations on a theme, like the one thing to wear for family photos this fall versus the complete guide to what to wear for family photos at home, different enough to pitch simultaneously to multiple outlets, because theoretically, both of those stories could run on the same day in different outlets and nobody would be upset. Here's what to not waste your time on. Do not write the entire article before submitting it. It's just not necessary. Editors don't want to read it. They just want to say yes to the idea. And they're going to, again, give you tweaks and general guidelines before you even embark on writing the article anyway. And again, there's always going to be revisions. So also publications that don't include a shirt tail. This is huge because more than just getting a logo on your site, some publications you might use for just a logo, but generally the whole point of getting published is to grow your email list so that you can grow it in perpetuity. And the way that you do that is with what they call the shirt tail. And that's just the paragraph at the very end of the article that says, Brooke Schultz is a family photographer located in Southern California and Utah who loves blah, blah, blah. And with a link to you. Sign up for her free family photography tips here. So if publications do not include that shirt tail with a link, and you're going to look at their site really quickly to see if they do that for their authors, I would skip them unless you for sure want that logo on your site. That would be the only reason to go for it anyway. Okay. How are we doing so far? Am I fire hosing you sufficiently? Okay, nice. I also would recommend not wasting your time on getting money for writing publications. Some outlets pay for articles. Adorama, for example, pays usually between $250 to $400 is standard for an article. But if they ask your rates, you could just simply ask what their budget is for that particular piece and they'll tell you. If you have to choose pay for the article versus a link, always choose a link because the goal is to increase your email subscribers as a result of guest posting. And the return on investment that you're going to get from a link and people coming into your world and buying your services, buying your products, buying from you in perpetuity is going to be priceless versus a one-time fee that you might get for writing the article. Now, Adorama does both. They pay you for the article itself and you get a link. Now, their link is a little bit different because the link is actually to your bio. So it's a little more hidden and buried than, say, Rangefinder, which is an inline shirt tail. So those types of details don't need to be like of the utmost interest to you. I would consider this just a volume game, but definitely look and make sure that they do include a shirt tail. Okay, let's talk about podcast guesting. Anybody interested in podcast guesting? If you've ever thought about starting a podcast, but you've thought, gosh, that sounds like a lot of work, you're right. It is a ton of work. And so a really great way to dip your toe in this world and maximize other people's work is to be a guest on somebody else's podcast because they have the audience. This is the equivalent of everything that I'm telling you guys as far as associating yourself with somebody else who already has the audience that you want to get in front of. Here's why podcast guesting, I think, is an incredible way to go as far as dispersing your content, growing your business, just getting general brand awareness. Because it is amazing exposure to ideal clients. There are podcasts that are as niche as you are, and their audience already trusts them, and they lend their credibility. It's the same concept as the artist who opens for Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift lends her credibility to the artist who opens for her. And instantly, the artist who opens for her is associated with her and gets a piece of her credibility because they're performing with her. It's the same thing on a podcast, an interview, a guest post. All of this, they lend their credibility to you. But podcasting specifically is huge because one episode is a huge investment of time. We would never listen to a 30-minute ad, but an episode with you is a 30-minute to an hour-long ad for you, for your business, for your products, your services, your everything. So especially if you have high-ticket offers. So Natalie, looking at you, anybody else who has like big-ticket package deal offers, or you want to create a high-ticket offer in the future, podcasting would be something that I would really recommend looking into. Because if you can get in front of that ideal audience and you really only need 1, 2, maybe 3 people to buy your high ticket item, you have that right there. So here's the other things about podcasting. A podcast episode can come back and bring you marketing oomph in perpetuity. Like if you recorded this episode a year ago, it can bring you a sale or a client 2 years from now. It can introduce you to new audiences. Even if they don't buy right now, you're going to grow your brand awareness. I was on the podcast Analog Talk, I think 3 or 4 years ago now. And the host of that podcast just barely hired me to shoot her newborn session years later. So you never know what's going to come back to you from being a guest on a podcast. The other thing, oh my gosh, did I not put this in a slide? The other thing is that I did somewhere, but I'll say it again when I get there, I guess, is that podcasts are so personal. When you listen to somebody's voice for that amount of time, you feel incredibly connected to them. And we are all so much more animated, inviting, exciting, and interesting when we're able to express ourselves via voice rather than just simply text or simply pictures plus text, the way that it is the format mostly on Instagram or blogs or your emails, for example. So if you're able to add that extra layer of intimacy in podcast interviews, you're going to be shocked at how this comes back to you. Again, with your high ticket offers selling easily, with even your products and services being booked out, cool collaborations that people are going to come to you for. Hey, I heard you on this podcast and I think you're awesome. Let's do a thing. Or you being able to send somebody, a prospective collaborator, a clip from a podcast. Like the options are really endless here. So how to find ideal podcasts to be a guest on. I would recommend avoiding photography podcasts unless you serve other photographers, unless you have courses, etc., for other photographers. Because photographers hang out in their own echo chambers, but your ideal people are waiting for you to be the expert. So look for podcasts that are, again, adjacent interests. So are there homeschool podcasts that you would love to talk about how to document your kids' homeschool experience in an artful, amazing way? If you, some of you have like Photo 101 or how to use your camera type of vibe offers for moms and any other sort of hobbyists, these other adjacent interest podcasts would be amazing for you. Parenting podcasts. But the other thing that I would really recommend is just ask your current audience, get on Instagram today, just ask them, what podcasts do you listen to? What podcasts do you love that sort of like help you in your life? And sure, you're going to get some that totally aren't right for what you're after, but you might find some hidden gems, and you might find also some surprising links in there. Local podcasts, if there are any, podcasts aren't location specific in general, but if there's somebody an influencer in your local area who has a podcast, I would really think heavily about that. If they have kids, if they have any sort of crossover with you, being on their podcast, again, even if they're not actually a local focused podcast, to be on their show. The other thing that are popping up now too are like location specific. So like Southern California things to do type of podcasts. So if there's like a tourist type of podcast, like So Erica, for you, I would really look at like Hawaii podcasts, like what to do while you're in Hawaii, in your specific island, your specific area. Look up those podcasts and say like, hey, I'm a local photographer. I would love to come on and talk about the 5 places to go to get the best photos for it while you're in town. So again, the intersection points. So like how not to photograph your kids for a homeschool mama's podcast, etc. Is this getting your wheels turning? Yes or yes? When you're pitching an ideal podcast, remember that podcasters need guests super bad. Like if the media needs you to write articles, podcasters probably need guests even more, especially guest focused podcasts. Like there are many podcasts that are only guests, right? They don't do solo shows, they only interview other people. And if that, as a podcaster, that train is coming at you week after week after week, and you need people to fill that. Um, the biggest thing that's going to make the difference is not your following or your credentials or other places that you've been featured. None of that really matters. If you can show that podcast host that you understand your audience and you will bring mega value to their people, they will get you on their show. So for me, as a podcaster who has received a lot of pitches of people who wanted to be on my podcast, this was the thing that made the difference. If they could show me exactly how they were going to bring value to my audience, if they had concrete examples, if they had bulleted lists, if they gave me just a little taste of what they were going to share rather than just nebulous, I can talk about X topic. Nobody wants to hear, I can talk about family photography. That's not compelling. That does not illustrate the value that you're going to give to your people, to their people. So if you were, instead of saying, I can talk about family photography, I could talk about wedding photography, I could talk about how to use your camera, then you instead craft your pitch to say, I can teach the folks listening to your podcast who have a nice camera but are too afraid to use it, how to take their first wow picture today, right after they listen to the episode. Oh my gosh, how compelling is that? I want that person on my podcast, and I don't even have a podcast anymore. Okay, so personalize and follow up. If I got so many just generic canned pitches too that were obviously mass produced, and they would just give me like a rap sheet of that person in their bio, and I do not give a about that person and their bio. I care again about what? My audience. So if you can say, here's a recent episode that I really loved, that's amazing. That's like, if there's specific podcasts that you are like, this would be my dream to be on this podcast, you can feel free to dig deeper and do a little bit more homework on that. But the other thing that you can do that's not a requirement, you can just simply say, just use that person's name. This sounds obvious, but so many people don't bother to do it. And then the next thing is in the podcast description. So in iTunes or Spotify or whatever, the podcast will have a little blurb, a little description about what their podcast is and who it's for, most likely. If you can say like, oh my gosh, I so love and resonate with your mission to make homeschooling fun. I don't homeschool myself, but I have like great fantasies of doing so. Or I was homeschooled, or even if you don't have a connection with their mission, if you just reiterate their mission and what they're trying to do with the podcast, and you just tell them that you love it and you're on board with it, and show how your pitch aligns with that mission, you got it in the bag. Again, it really does not matter credentials and crap that you have. I got emails from people who had like New York Times bestsellers, whatever. If they just gave me their laundry list of things they had and places they've been featured, I did not care. I didn't put them on the podcast. So that's the good news for all of us, right? Let's take a breath. I've been talking a lot. Let's take a deep breath in. Oh, breathe in that possibility, that impact, that joy, that money that all this is about to create for you, and breathe it out. So let's talk about finding ideal outlets to feature your work. Pay attention to the media you already consume. What you read, your ideal client likely also reads and cares about and thinks is cool. When in doubt, ask your social followers, your email subscribers, your friends, just what are they looking to, listening to, reading? This is one of my best and hottest tips. Google the headlines that you're thinking of. So if you have an idea, a general idea, Google it, see what comes up. I think that was actually how I decided to pitch Adorama, is I was like, who's even talking about like how to do the best family photos? And I was like, oh, Adorama's first on the list. Great, I'll pitch them. Even if it doesn't seem like a good fit initially, a top listing on Google for your relevant topics might be worth considering. This also, I didn't even talk about how this boosts your SEO juice to have outside links coming back to you. That's another lovely, lovely benefit of pitching. So I would do this first. After you have your pitch in mind, your general idea, Google that, or even just Google family photos tips and look at all the sites that come up. See if any of them fit for you. And see, also look when you're looking at these sites, then you'll see all the types of articles that they do, and it will get your mind spinning as far as a potential hole that you could fill. So for me, that was exactly how I came up with the Adorama pitch, where I looked on Adorama, I saw like all these articles about like how to make kids smile and how to make kids look good at photographing children, blah blah blah. So I was like, they need something about why my focus isn't on the kids. So look for holes. All right. And if at this point you're like, gosh, this sounds fine and I want this, but it also sounds like a crap ton of work. Let's talk about repurposing your articles and your features. You can take snippets from your articles or podcast transcripts. Most podcasts have a transcription of the podcast itself. Turn them into your email copy, turn them into Instagram posts, turn them into Instagram stories. You can even turn these into a book or a course. So one of my mentors, Susie Moore, she has written so many articles for outlets everywhere that she actually compiled them all into a book. And like, it's a delight to read because it's actually just short and snappy and they're all like sort of variations on a theme. But yeah, the options are endless. Take pieces of podcasts or TV, reshare them on stories. You can also please leverage your past media to get future media. You're gonna share that TV spot that you did locally to skyrocket you to Ellen or Good Morning America or whatever. And even to just establish your core brand stories that you're going to share over and over. In podcasting specifically, but also with articles, stories are king. So when I am talking about stories this time, I mean like actual narrative stories that you can tell. So there was a family that I photographed a newborn session for, and we almost didn't do the session because we had done a maternity session and I was in town, and she was like, I just don't know, like we just barely did this other session. I don't know if I feel totally recovered. I don't know if I really want to do the session. And I was like, let's do it. You're never going to regret it. Like, let's just do the session. So we did it. And that newborn tragically and unexpectedly died 2 weeks later. And of course, it was heartbreaking and awful, and everything that experience is for a parent, every parent's worst nightmare. And that is a story that I share consistently, not because it highlights necessarily like, wow, you should go get photos, but because I share this aspect of like, those photos are, they're exactly representative of what she was experiencing and what that family was experiencing at that time. She looks tired in some of the photos. He was fussing for many of the photos, and so his face is turned away. And I use that story to illustrate this constant duality that we have in living a life, that we're also, as we live life, we're touching death. And that as photographers, we touch death maybe more than any other profession, because, well, not obviously like the death professions, but you know what I mean. So, because I can guarantee all of you have had someone pass away that you have photographed, and that those loved ones have come back to you and shared how your photos have impacted that experience of losing that loved one or remembering that loved one. And so I would encourage you to find your own core brand stories that you're going to share over and over. And it can be everything from, photos that impacted you as a child, looking at your grandmother's photos, but like actually there needs to be a real story there. That's just an anecdote, that's not a story. To specific client stories like I just shared. But as you get those core brand stories, then you're going to have endless pitch options. And when somebody says, hey, I've got an opening for a podcast interview tomorrow, can you do it? You'll be like, yeah, no big, because I know what my core brand stories are. So as you craft these and as you get experience with this, then you won't be afraid so much of repeating yourself. When I was first getting into like podcasts and interviews, especially, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to repeat myself. If I have core brand stories, I'm going to tell the same stories over and over again. Raise your hand if you know and love Queen Brene Brown. I know and love her. She's amazing, right? So I got into a phase a couple years ago where I was like, I just love her and I'm obsessed with her. I want to devour every single interview she's ever done. The woman repeats herself. Every single interview, she tells the same stories. She tells the same aha moment that she had looking at all her research spread out across her dining room table and realizing, oh my gosh, it's all about wholeheartedness and vulnerability and like, but it's all about the delivery, the passion, and like the way that she says it as if it's new every time. I listened to it every single time in every single interview and I didn't care. It was the same thing. People that resonate with the ideas that you're selling, this is why I always tell us, let's sell ideas, not photos. It's because people who resonate with that message want to hear that message over and over again. And of course, you're going to word it slightly differently every time you tell it. Human hand is incapable of making an exact replica, and I would argue the same thing with you telling a story. Not going to be exactly the same every time, so don't worry about that. Plus, also, only your super fans are going to listen to every interview you've ever done, so just get excited for that. All right. You are only one email away from a great feature. That's what I want you to know. I'm like getting so close to the camera again because all you got to do is pitch and follow up and repeat because it's truly a numbers game. A pitch to an editor, I mean, it might not land for any number of reasons, and the most likely of which is just timing. They have other timely stuff where it was a really crazy news week, or like they're suddenly covering everything in Ukraine, only everything to do with Ukraine this week. And so they're not ready for your pitch about family photography until next week or whatever. So if you can just stomach this idea that it really is a numbers game, then you get to embrace the no and just know that if you don't pitch, it's already a no. So you really have nothing to lose. All right, I'm checking the chat. Do we have questions that I didn't get to in the middle? Oh yeah, now they're saying I've done several about podcasts. Yeah, so easy to get on. I love it. And keep in touch and you can get back on those shows again. The shows that I've been on multiple times have been some of the best return on investment in terms of like audience growth and new people coming to my email list than anything else. All right, what questions do you have? Oh, I forgot to tell you guys about Rocket Reach. So if you are looking, many publications have, as far as actually pitching and contacting and getting the right person, many will have a dedicated submission page or submission process, or they will tell you specifically the editor's name to send to. But if they don't, and you can just see articles that are written by a certain person and you have that person's name and you can see, oh, they're the lifestyle writer. They write for the lifestyle section. of the publication. For a lot of you, PS, by the way, the lifestyle section is going to be where your article would live for a lot of just general publications and women's magazines. If you could just see their name, you can use rocketreach.co. I'll put that in the chat, but it's rocketreach.co to search anyone's name, and it will pull up their email, a working email to get for them. Also, don't be afraid of Instagram and direct message. People are so hyperactive, brands especially too, and publications are hyperactive on social these days. And so don't be afraid to reach out via DM. I've actually gotten several of my pitches for Good Morning America accepted via direct message. So for editors' contact info in the Thinkific course, I give you all of the editors' contact info that I have for Parents, for Cosmopolitan, for Good Morning America, for Adorama, Rangefinder, all these yummy places. The editor contact info is in there. And I haven't been published on Good Morning America yet. The pitch cycle can take a long time, you guys. I told you Kodak, they will accept a pitch and then you won't actually see the pitch come to life. Like that, the Rangefinder article that just went live this week. I mean, I sent them that article. I sent them the pitch in 2021 and it sent them the article in February, and it just barely went live because of their editorial schedule. So plan for that as well. A lot of times it's either like one day or it's like 7 months. But all of those editors that I have been featured in, you can use my name as a reference in your pitch as well. Okay, what questions can I answer? Are we excited about this? Are we overwhelmed by this? How are we feeling?
I have a question.
Yes, Liz.
I'm actually excited about this.
Yes, girl.
Which usually I'm not excited about stuff. So
which I'm usually just.
No, I'm just kidding. Excited ever. Have you ever contributed just photography and not writing? I mean, it sounds like, obviously it's the full package, which I totally understand. Is there a kind of a different process have you done that? What would
be an example of a feature or an outlet that you would want to submit just images?
I don't know. Like I've seen blogs. I mean, it's more probably like clothing or something like that. Like and I don't know how they do that. Like I've seen blogs with kind of small clothing lines where they're like featuring some person.
Oh, cool.
And the photographer, it's like so-and-so's wearing my clothes. And then this photographer did the photos. So I guess I don't know if they're picking the person or if you would submit, you're like, oh, if you team up with somebody and you're like, oh, we would do your thing. So I don't know, I guess.
Yeah, you can definitely pitch that idea. And I would actually get a person in mind, like get an influencer that's already on board. Reach out to the influencer first and be like, hey, if we were to ask this shop to collaborate and do a feature, like, would you want to do a little shoot? And then they could feature us on their blog, that kind of thing. And then you get to go to that blog and say, hey, I've got X person ready to do a shoot. Would that be something that you'd be interested in featuring?
Yeah. And I have to look and see, I'm thinking about one in particular, and I have to look and see if different people write it every time. Like if I could probably pull in a writer, like then I wouldn't have to write it and I could just do the photos. So I'll look at that. I'll research that a little bit.
Let's have writers that write their stuff for them. So it might be an outlet where you could say, like, you could even just email them and ask them and just be like, I think you guys are so cool and I would love to work with you somehow. What's the process for somebody getting on the blog? Like, is there somebody that takes submissions, or is there somebody that, and you can even just say like, this this might be totally off, but if there's somebody that takes submissions, here's my sample portfolio, just Dropbox. Easy peasy.
Yeah, because I think something like that for me would be a cool portfolio piece too. So it's kind of a couple, like if I'm going to do it for free anyway or whatever,
Yeah.
then it's like featured. And
totally.
So that's kind of like the whole thing. So
yeah, totally. Yeah. And don't be afraid to reach out for features too. Like if there are those publications that do feature like a certain, like Mother Mag does certain, like they feature certain moms. And so if you do self-portraits or you want, I'm looking at Michelle, she's not here, but you could feature, like submit your own self-portraits, or you can, if you have like a really cool mom that you photographed, you can be like, ask her like, hey, we should submit this to Mother Mag. Look back through your old archives of work too, you guys. Like you don't have to shoot something new to be featured. It can be something that you've already shot, and even that you've shot a long time ago. Yeah, totally. Yeah, by the way, my Martha Stewart feature was in 2013, and I'm still like milking that for all it's worth. So keep milking what you have and don't be afraid. Okay, did anybody else have a burning question?
I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
What do you think would give you the most like bang for your buck? Would it be like Martha Stewart? Parents?
What's
like,
your goal? Email subscribers?
I don't
clients,
really
a logo.
Yeah, I think I would rather have like clout with clients. Like I don't know that I really want just a whole lot of random email addresses from people all over the country that aren't going to hire me.
Okay.
I don't know. But anyway, it just like feels like a lot of different publications. So I just didn't know if you had a couple that you feel like have, like you just mentioned your Martha Stewart, you were milking that. So that's clearly been a good one for you.
Yeah, so Martha Stewart was in print. Print, you guys, is for the logo and for just like the fun of like, oh my gosh, I'm in the magazine. Okay. It is not for building your business at all. I did not build my business from that in any direct way. Okay. But like the Rangefinder, Adorama, Parents, those have all been really good outlets. Parents, I would say, is probably the most bang for my buck recently. Okay. Parents.com is what I mean. But it again, it really depends on your goals. So if
your Martha Stewart feature, was that weddings?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And so if you, but you can get anything featured anywhere. So if you have something in mind that you're like, gosh, Martha Stewart would just be super, super cool, then flow your energy there until it happens, and it will. Okay. And pitch them ideas until they respond and tell you, this is what we're looking for.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, you guys. I challenge you to pitch 5 pitches this week, whether that's publications or a collaboration if you want to do more stuff, or just digging in your archives and finding a new home for those images. There's no reason you couldn't knock out 5 or more today. So let's do it. Who's in? Say aye. Okay, you guys are amazing. Thank you for hanging today. Oh, Natalie was saying I'd look locally, magazines, and OBGYN, pediatrician office. Yeah, so that is definitely, those type of local things would be for like direct to client building your customer base. And everything that I'm talking about is more like general building your brand and business. I'm definitely not against those local publications or local magazines. Those are great to be featured in for building awareness around your local area, and that's really great. I like online publications for the fact that you can niche so specifically, and niche for tribe, niche for vibe, rather than just specifically location. So if you're, yeah, like definitely do both. Cast a wide net. Both are amazing. But even if I were just starting over in a new location, I would still focus on online because you can niche for vibe and tribe rather than just location only. All right. Check out all the resources that are in your Thinkific course. The pitch scripts and everything that I shared today are in there for you to use and copy and paste. And this is all stuff that I've paid over $5,000 to learn alone. So I'm really excited for you guys to have it and use it and copy and paste and just like hit the ground running. Okay, big hugs, you guys. Oh, we don't have call next week. It'll be implementation week, and then I'll see you the week after. Big hugs. Bye, guys.